to think honestly about what game it is that you want to play. So I'll give you an example of this. There's a philosopher named Naval Ravikant, and he talks about the idea of the difference between playing the status game and playing the wealth game. A lot of people who are playing the status game think they're playing the wealth game. So if you are trying to get famous on social media, for instance, or you're trying to build a big following, a lot of times the influencer game, which is really a popularity and a fame game, thinks that it's a wealth game, but it's really not a wealth game. It's really more of a popularity contest. And the wealth game, on the other hand, um, to a certain extent, is opposite of the fame game, or they don't always go together. And so you have to really understand what game you're playing, because if you play one game expecting to be playing another, you'll get the wrong result. You see what I'm saying? You won't get what you want if you don't play the right game to get there. And a lot of times, I think what happens is we might get 5, 10, even 20 years into our career and realize that we're playing the wrong game. I think with entrepreneurship in general, you have to think about what type of game is this. People come into the entrepreneurship game and they think it's the wealth game or the riches game, and it definitely can be. I mean, I would probably say that outside of being born into royalty or nobility, being an entrepreneur is probably the most realistic path for getting very wealthy. I think that you can have a W 2 job, and over time, you can build up a tremendous portfolio and you can actually become wealthy. But I think that you'd find most people who are truly wealthy, who are very, very wealthy, the majority of them are going to be entrepreneurs, because mostly just because you can control your income to a certain extent. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of factors that stop that from being the truth, but your ceiling in theory is unlimited. And I think that is the benefit, the real benefit of entrepreneurship. Whereas it might be less stable and steady, the ceiling is unlimited. So, but then you think that you're playing the wealth game with entrepreneurship, and you're really not, though. What you're really playing with entrepreneurship, when it comes down to it, is you're playing I would say there's a few different games you're playing. You're playing the building game. So people think that they get into business because they're trying to get rich, but many people get into entrepreneurship because they're trying to build something that is on their mind, or something creative, something that is something that expresses them in some sort of way, something that is uh, meaningful to them. Most people get into business because they're creative at heart. I would say that a lot of entrepreneurs maybe don't think of themselves as creative, but we absolutely are, because as a business person, you are taking something from what's in your mind as an entrepreneur, and then you're making it happen in the real world. And when you can take something that's from your mind and you can put it into real life, that is literally the definition of creativity. And so, because such a creative force is required to be successful in business, it's a very creative thing. But sometimes, as entrepreneurs and as founders going into it, we're so focused on building wealth and on building money that we conflate what type of game that we're in. Business is fundamentally a creative game. Yes, it is. The measurements that we use to keep track of it are numerical. So it's, the dollars and cents are like the scorecard of business. Those are your KPIs, your key progress indicators. But the soul of business, I would argue, is creative. It's creative because, again, you're taking something and you're pulling it from the ether. You're making something from nothing. All businesses started as a non-business, just like all people started as non-people. This is why after a certain time, a business is almost seen as an entity, and you're creating something that also has a superstructure to it. If you create a pretty big business where multiple, lots of people work at it and it has connections to other things on the outside, you actually create a structure that's bigger than yourself, which, when you think about it, is a truly a metaphysical creation in a certain way. When you create an organization, a network of people, nodes of people connected to each other, you're creating a psychic web that is bigger than you, and the creator can then walk away from that psychic web and have left something that stands the test of time. Steve Jobs is no longer here, but think about the psychic web that Apple created, both internally within its company and its companies, and also externally with its people that are connected by its devices. Apple left this huge web, and so a business and a company really is a psychic. It's a psychic web of connection. And I think that there's a certain part of us as entrepreneurs that want to create those. We want to create those connections with others. So it's part of it is we want to be around others. Part of it is we want to create a product or a service that is interesting to us, that allows us to flex our expertise, that allows us to be noticed, and we want to be seen. Sometimes we get into entrepreneurship not just for the monies necessarily, but to prove ourselves to outsiders or prove ourselves to ourselves, to get back at bullies, or to prove ourselves to parents or mentors. And again, you have to be aware of the game that you're playing. A lot of us think that we are doing business because we want to make money, but the money is only the surface level criteria that we're searching for, you know. And so just think about this when you're sometimes feeling lost maybe in your business journey, or you're feeling a little bit tired. Think about why you do it, because if you just are focused on money, you're just focused on that immediate financial outcome. Obviously, yes, we all got to eat, we all got to make money, but if you're just focused on that, it's going to be harder for you at times to really push through and to keep going, because money, although it can be extremely motivating, is only a small piece of why you're doing what you're doing. And if you can get beneath that a little bit, and if you can really ask yourself, why is it? What game am I trying to play here? Is it the status game that I'm trying to play? Is it the revenge game I'm trying to play? Is it the you know is it the creative game I'm trying to play? If you can understand your reason for business more clearly, you can put more energy in the right place, and it will allow you to push the organization forward. And so that's all I wanted to say. I think Naval Ravikant has um, a great like outlook on this. So you can read his book. There's a book by him called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, which is a good book, or you can just look him up on podcasts and stuff. But just the whole idea of um, of understanding what game you're playing and focusing on the game that you want to play to get the outcome that you want. I just can't stress enough how I think that many of us are we spend our whole lives and careers playing the wrong game, following the wrong rules, listening to the wrong people, and then we get into our later phases, when we can still change, but it's more difficult, and we think, man, I've spent all this time listening to the wrong voices or following the wrong map, and that's actually a good realization to have, because it tells us that we can still turn around and we can still make great decisions, and we can actually use the knowledge that we gained up to this point to our advantage. But it just goes to show you that having awareness of the game that you're playing and your motivations for doing things, how you're doing them, can be really useful. Becoming self-aware, as it were. Like, all of this pretty much comes down to self-awareness, but there's different ways to phrase that, whether it's talking about the game that you're playing, or being self-aware, or being mindful. These are all similar ways of saying the same thing, but the deeper that you know yourself, the more powerfully you'll be able to express yourself, and the more cleanly you'll be able to do it without wasting time and energy on things that aren't really meant for you, that don't feel good anyway. So those are some thoughts, and I hope you have a great night. And I'll see you on Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. every single day, Monday through Friday, every single weekday, Monday through Friday, for Good Morning with Daniel Lee Piazza, where we drop business and life gems that you won't find anywhere else. Okay.